Welcome to the Chat Show, where we provide computer help, advice, and tech news. I am General Buckles from the YouTube channel General Buckles, and I'm joined by my mustachioed co-host, Bradford Skeldorado of the YouTube channel Bradford Skeldorado. He didn't tell me about the mustache before hopping on this call, and it shocked me. I didn't expect to see that. Good to see you, buddy.
Good to see you too, man.
On tonight's show, we are going to talk about some upcoming advancements in video games and discuss our thoughts on that, because I have different thoughts than I think you might have. We're going to talk about some some apparently available features on YouTube dealing with AI. And then we're going to review the 2009, I forget the year, 2009 film Surrogates with Bruce Willis and some others, Mr. Cromwell, one of who's actually resurfaced from iRobot. He's in both those films, by the way, as the inventor of something. I think he's being typecast too much. And we're going to talk about surrogates and its what kind of allegory that might be for our future society. So without further ado, we're going to hop right into the tech news. Have you heard of chalk warfare before, Bradford?
I have never heard of chalk warfare, but after looking at this article, it's really interesting to see almost like a sandbox first-person shooter.
Well, chalk warfare is a YouTube video series that started back in, I want to say, 2012. The very first one. And it was these guys, figured out a way to shoot a YouTube video where instead of getting real guns, they were able to create these 2D CGI things and shoot at each other with chalk. And the idea was that you could draw whatever weapon you wanted and then pick it up and use it. They had so much success from that first video that for the next 10 years, they became a media company called So Crispy Media, which sounds oddly Gen Z for how I think millennial they might be. I don't know exactly what gen they are, but over the next 10, 12 years, they end up making a total of 4 of these things, as well as, running their So Crispy Media business. And around 2017, they start talking about how they want to turn this chalk warfare concept into a video game. So that's, math me on this one, 7 years ago. This year at Unreal Engine Fest, they displayed a demo of what that might look like. I'm scared to actually hit play on this because I'm worried that YouTube would just kill our stream. Yeah, flag it right away. I've heard of that. So I'm just going to click kind of forward and show you what this looks like. But apparently it's a first person, maybe third person over the shoulder. I'm not quite sure how the gameplay is going to play out, but the idea is that you can then draw whatever you want and it will identify it as a existing class of weapon, a pistol. In this case, he starts to draw a submachine gun and there it is, a rifle, whatever you want. And then you run around the game with that thing and shoot with it. And I guess you could draw a pig and it would say, that's the closest thing that that looks like
it'll read it. Yeah.
As a rifle or a bazooka. I don't know what. It's a neat concept. Here's the thing. I think personally it's a gross underuse of something as advanced as Unreal Engine 5. I think you're taking a toddler's crayon drawings and playing video games with it. Like the rest of the world is very advanced. And then you're running around with this literal chalk drawing. It's a novel. I'm worried it's going to be a novelty and not really that immersive or something that can be really expanded on by the user. I also think personally, it's a bit for a YouTube channel that had massive success early on and has had over a decade of to be able to build, that they didn't move away from this concept for 12 years, right? Like,
Yeah,
it was a neat
almost
concept
seems
in
like
2012.
yeah, it almost seems like the game design version of writer's block. Like
Mm-hmm.
this is your bread and butter, and you want to push it forward, but then it's like, at what point do you say like, let's put this on the back burner and let's keep something like we've got the backing, we've got a lot of interest, but let's move this into something else.
Right. They it's this one trick pony that they just rode out over the years. And I mean, obviously the videos, the 4 different videos, which they only made 4 in like a decade, which, like, for it being as successful as it was, I would have thought they would have made like a series or something, or maybe movies. I don't know. They all seemed like experiments to test out ideas rather than delivering a product. And this, what I would like to see, and just personally, if you were going to take this concept of being able to create your own weapons, like create a tool like Microsoft Paint or something, but obviously, or more advanced, where you can really create your own 3D weapons and then insert them into games yourselves. Everyone loves skins. That's the big deal in games right now, is, or at least with the microtransactions, is buying skins and being able to have the coolest gun or the coolest outfit. Why wouldn't you create a tool, an artist tool, where you could just log in and just design your own weapon? You don't, and you get X number of credits to use to like design, if they want to try to throw the microtransaction element to it. But this just seems like a novelty that isn't really going to have legs. And
really, like you mentioned though, it could have been like, this could have been the brainchild that led into, like I said, you made 4 very high quality videos. What would stop you from making some kids show or movie of some guy that creates his weapons out of this chalk? And now you may have this down the road that it kind of gets investors from, but it almost seems like something to where you would nearly have to draw, let's say you needed a shield to protect yourself. You'd almost have to draw a specific shape so the computer would recognize what it is. If I draw a bazooka and it looks like a rifle, I'm not shooting that tank and destroying it, or if I draw a gun and it doesn't really look like it, it's kind of hard to, there almost have to be like parameters, and you would have to select what type of weapon and then draw it out yourself, because it may not recognize everything. But yeah, I don't know.
That would be what users would play. I mean, you'd find that in the first beta or alpha test, as people are drawing, they're drawing eggplants with little grapes next to it or something like that, and seeing what it shoots. But at the end result is you're still running around the game with, look at he's running around, and that's how it looks in the game, is a 2D, very flat drawing of something that's not super impressive, because you're drawing it with a mouse on their interface here. And that's not what I think a lot of gamers are going to want, is this idea that they want to see themselves being Snoop Dogg with an AK. They want to, in great detail. So there has to be a way to take what they've done here. And I just realized there's like purple on my face because there's a purple light that turned on over here, and I'm not really happy with it. Turn off.
Yeah, well, not only that, but kind of like you mentioned, the where a user could go in and create their own skin, or really this would be an easy way to get kids into 3D modeling. Like, have a easy user interface with designing your own in-game items, and then you kind of program it, what it does, what type of reaction you're going to get out of this item. But it shows kids how to get in and start doing things to where they can 3D model for the future, because everything's kind of a learning tool now, and kids now are doing things that are far beyond what we were doing as kids as far as the tech stuff goes. So the furthest thing we were doing at probably 10 to 15 years old in video games was, you would have something like The Sims, to where you're setting an open world, like I said, sandbox idea, but you didn't really have the creative ability that they have now to generate their own games and have very easy use of creating your own outcome in the game.
Yeah, sorry, I'm getting a update from YouTube that our stream health is not good. It
Oh, I
might
gotcha.
be it might be that my girlfriend is on a HOA, or she's on the board
I
of her
gotcha.
HOA, and they're having a board meeting.
I
So
gotcha. Yeah, everything looks good. I think for a second there it got a little fuzzy, but yeah, I think we're all good to go. But
okay,
yeah, like I said, it's just kind of a cool way that you could include, because now they've got I think it's called Code Ninjas, and I don't know
hmm
if they've got that out there, but it's like a little after school program, a camp that you can learn how to program, and it's
hmm
meant for kids. They have college students that come in and help out, to where you can build your own Minecraft server, you can build your own, Roblox games,
hmm
or you could start from scratch and build your own. So what's to say that this idea, this concept couldn't be something like that? And not only
yeah,
that, let's say the like I said, microtransactions, you have a an individual that makes something and everybody in the game wants it, give them in-game credits for
oh yeah, you
people
have a marketplace
getting
where you can
their,
sell these things.
yeah,
Yes,
to where it's
no,
like, oh wow, that's really cool. I would like to get that. And then, then you get into the whole aspect of like, mom doesn't like it because it seems like I'm gambling, because I created this and now I've got, a million people. It went viral per the game, and now
right.
it's kind of something that really caught on. But like I said, I think it's a really cool concept. But yeah, 2012, and it's just kind of been stagnant. But
I mean, they've been highly successful. I don't want to seem like I'm poo pooing the entire concept. It's just they stuck with this chalk thing for so long. I feel like you could have gone past the chalk drawings and gone into more detail. Weren't we recently talking about how we're looking down the barrel of a future where games will.
almost generate as you go.
Yeah, hold on a second. Okay, sorry. I think my headphones just connected to my iPad. Um, no, yeah, the games that generate as you play.
Yeah,
You can
almost like an
design,
AI
right,
in progress
AI,
type thing.
right.
Yeah.
You type in the kind of environment you want, it builds that. And then you can maybe alter it and update it in like a
Mhm.
was it not Inception? Was it Inception? Was that the dream one?
Oh yeah, to where it's like she was thinking about it and it was created like
Right.
automatically as they're walking.
Yeah, so I think this is it's an interesting proof of concept, but they've been working on this for 7 years, and
Yeah.
by the time they're done, I think what people are going to want, like 7 years ago, this would have been insane. This would have been really neat.
Yeah.
I'm worried that by the time they're done, and this is, I think, is a larger conversation about how long it takes to develop games. I can't talk about that. Gray Zone Warfare is about to launch. Another update for their pre-alpha that we've all been
Okay.
playing. They're not even
Yeah.
in beta yet, and it's they have a roadmap that goes out to 2026. I'm like, this feels like Tarkov.
Yeah.
I want like I it's so good now. How are we not just call it a release and then update it as you go? Like it's just a weird terminology thing. But
Yeah.
anyway, uh that's chalk warfare. Our second story is AI related with YouTube. Oh, shoot. Sorry, I just, there we go.
All right. So AI, and I just got this email probably about an hour to an hour and a half ago, now has a conversational tool to where you can use, if you're an Android user, which most people should be. Why would you use Apple? But really, you can ask YouTube certain questions about videos you're watching, related topics, information that is inside the video that you want to know more about, or just your attention span is very short and you want them to summarize the video for you before you even watch it. They can do that too. So I thought this was kind of neat. The AI stuff that they've had in YouTube, not necessarily with strictly YouTube, but creating videos. There's a lot of AI based around recommendations and things like that. Now you mentioned that AI has suggested responses to people's comments.
This is kind of insane. I just stumbled onto this today. I did a live stream a couple nights ago, right? I'll put it up on the screen here. This is one of the comments from my live stream. One of my good YouTube buddies, TC Connor, says he missed the stream. He's not a gamer. He didn't really understand what I was talking about because I was upgrading an old gaming PC. He basically just noticed odd sounds made by my mouth in my microphone, like that, because I wear a different microphone in my studio. Those responses underneath his comment, I did not write, nor was I notified that this would start happening. So this is an AI written response. Yeah, my bad. Got a little thirsty during the live stream. I need a better mic. I don't need a better mic. I have the newer CM28 and it's awesome. Yeah. So YouTube is writing now it's almost comment like responses for you.
Yeah. So, and I mean, I'm sure this would help. Let's say you're a big creator and everybody wants a response from the person that has 10 million views. Linus Tech Tips, right? Linus has an entire team, I'm sure, that reviews things and looks at stuff and responds to this type of stuff.
This is a job killer.
Well, not only that, but if you respond to one person, let's say they ask about, so I get this a lot with, hey, this CPU, can I upgrade to this one? And it's like, just scroll down in the comments and I've answered this 16 times already. So now AI may be able to read and say, hey, yes, you can. And I can just tap that versus having to go through and type out, you know, a nice response to somebody, because you don't want to seem like you don't want to push anybody away, but really the answer's probably right below, you know, where you just asked that question. But yeah, I mean, this is just cool little tools. And by the way, this is for premium users. So if you pay $10, $12, whatever it's gone up to, this is for premium users. And like I said, right now it's currently on Android. But yeah, just kind of a cool little AI feature that they've added, since we have been talking about AI a lot lately with the movies we've been reviewing and everything else. Now, one thing they do promise is AI does not use your conversation to show you ads. So they won't record it. And it does say that they will keep your conversation separate for 3 years. So I don't know if they do track what you're searching for, what you're interested in, to kind of filter the content that you're looking for. But we all know that there's algorithms and everything. And we all know that whenever you talk about buying an LTT screwdriver, for the next week, you're going to get ads for an LTT screwdriver. So to say they're not listening, I highly doubt that. But
and AI generated responses may not reflect the views of YouTube. So it's the bottom line here is that it's Siri for YouTube.
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
Well, Bixby. Yeah.
It's not Siri yet. Plus. Yeah. I think what would be better than this. One, you mentioned summarizing videos before you even watch them. That would be interesting, but also detrimental, because I think that would drop views, because people would end up not watching a video that doesn't hit that very specific thing they want. Right. So you'll get people that watch 30%. Like my average is like 30% or 20% of people watch the whole thing. I don't know if the analytics mean that most people are only watching 20%, whatever, but you could see a big cut in that. I think what YouTube should do, to your point about comments already answering certain questions, on Amazon, when you go to a product listing and there's a Q&A section, you can type in your question and it'll pop up basically all the people who've asked that question and its associated answers.
Okay.
So if you wrote a comment that had a question, it could basically auto respond with the answer you've already provided below, or show them here's the available answers to what that might be. Our viewer Deacon Blue, a good friend of mine out of New Orleans, he says, I bet that will not last past the day they can monetize it. So it's probably already being used. I bet that will not last past the day they can monetize it. I'm not sure exactly what he's referring to. I think he's talking about your thing. Unless he joined earlier.
Yeah, I would assume if it is talking about the AI stuff, I mean, they're pretty much monetized it already with premium users. So, I mean, you're getting $10 a month per, 20%, 30%, how many people pay for it, throughout the month. So, not only that, but you kind of isolated it to Android users only. So really half of
that's a test-based thing. That's like when iPhones were AT&T only.
But
we knew
what
that was going to change.
The premium-based users that may be getting this email are kind of SOL until they figure it out, until they get it rolling. But yeah, I mean, they'll monetize anything. We've learned that from any type of advertising.
True story. All right, well, that concludes our tech news for the evening. Next, we move on to the 2009 film Surrogates, starring Bruce Willis, Ving Rhames, Radha Mitchell. Let me see, who else? We got Rosamund Pike, one of my favorites. Radha Mitchell, I could have sworn was a different actress in that one. And James Cromwell, obviously, our guy from iRobot, who was the head scientist there. So I'm gonna. This should not get us canceled. Let's try this. I can play the trailer via IMDb and see what happens.
Imagine a world where you can be anyone. Go anywhere. Do anything. Robotic human surrogates combine the durability of a machine with the grace and beauty of the human body.
How many people watched this trailer and thought it was an advertisement for something? The first 30 seconds just looked like a fitness ad.
Yeah.
Of your mind. You can control your surrogate and send it out into the real world. You can finally live the life you've always dreamt of without any risk or danger to yourself.
I've always dreamt of making out in dirty alleyways.
Unprecedented situation. 2 people have died while connected to their surrogates.
I think we may actually have a homicide here. First one in years.
The public cannot be allowed to get the idea that using a surrogate can be fatal.
Especially if it's true. I just want to know how an operator can be killed by signals from a surrogate.
Surries have been blown to bits without the least bit of harm to their operators.
If it were possible, it would defeat the entire purpose of surrogacy.
Good helicopter crash.
Oh my God, Tom?
You're lucky to be alive. Good thing you're unplugged.
Based on a graphic novel. I want to read that. All right, I'm going to stop that there. Basic plot of this film: in a near future, widespread use of remotely controlled androids called surrogates enables everyone to live idealized forms from the safety of their homes. And then the plot is that a couple surrogates get destroyed, and the users of those surrogates back at their homes end up being killed by this process. And that's new. And apparently you can get into a car crash and it's safe because you're sitting at a couch at home. FBI agent played by Bruce Willis is researching this death and goes on a wild ride to find out what's really going on. There's also the human resistance. So I don't even call them a resistance. They're just sort of anti-surrogates, and they live in their little, basically reservations. It seems like it was meant to be like Native American reservations all over the country where you could live without surrogacy there, and it was just real humans
Very
or meat
similar
bags.
to the way the Sixth Day was with the opposing group.
Well,
that
they
didn't
were,
want the,
but they didn't live in isolation. They were fighting back
No.
actively.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is like kind of the same concept of people that, you know, appeal to those trying to play God and replicating life and stuff like that.
Yeah. So I mean, basically we're saying you could make a movie about living in the Matrix and living out an ideal version of your life there, or we could live in a world where we stay home and robots go out and live the world for us. Economically, that just seems silly because you still need to maintain the roads. You still need like all the infrastructure and everything. I guess public toilets wouldn't be something you'd have to worry about. Restaurants would go out of business because real people wouldn't be going to restaurants to eat real food. They don't address that in this film. I did notice upon a second watching that in this future, there's this piece of really advanced technology, these androids and the remote control system and the interface that you lay in this bed. But that's the only bit of future tech in the movie. The cars are still the cars, the credit cards and cell phones. Nothing has advanced but these robots.
Still using flash
USB
drives to copy
thumb drives. But nothing else has advanced in this movie at all. Like this world has made one advancement and that is it.
Yeah.
So you just watched it for the first time. What are your first thoughts?
So it was kind of an interesting thing to see as soon as you start watching it, it's kind of cool because like you mentioned it opens up with like a timeline of the technology. And I think it starts at 15 years and they're just starting to develop robotics. Then it goes to like 12 years or 13 years and they're kind of progressing through this. And really the timeline almost mimics real life as far as you know, we've got robotics for people that are amputees or anything like that. They're starting to work with things, prosthetics, AI in the world and everything is obviously a thing. But one of the funny things I noticed from the beginning is everybody walks around like a robot because they are, but then it's almost like you see things like Bruce Willis's character in his Surrogate to where he's like just kind of normal walking, and then it's like act robotic, and then it's like they like stiffen up and like kind of move really stiff and rigid, but he's got almost like a different swag to him. But you definitely notice like everybody really played a good part of that, like straight face, no emotion through the robot and everything. Another kind of weird thing that you mentioned was making out in an alleyway. The blonde club girl was played by some big overweight sweaty dude. Yeah. So it's like you don't really know who's the user on the other end of it.
Yeah. So that touches on like the real concerns we've had for years on the internet is that in chat rooms in the 90s, you could be talking to some creepy old guy when you're a little 13-year-old boy or girl and not know who that is. The same concerns and worries exist here for that. And I like that they added that because it wasn't a huge focal point in the film. It was just something that they brushed over going, hey, this is also something that, like an element to this lifestyle you have to be concerned about. He was the only one that didn't look like his surrogate either. Everyone else in the movie, like their surrogate looked like the perfected version of them.
Yeah. You didn't think his surrogate looked like him as far as other than the hair?
No, I'm talking about the old guy, the guy. The obese guy who's the club girl. Yeah.
Yeah,
he was the only one that was like basically someone completely different. Every other character seemed to just be a disheveled version of their surrogate when you saw them at home.
And I think they kind of advertised that like you can be the perfect version of yourself without going to the gym. But yeah, everybody looked like they had a long weekend, drinking heavily,
Yeah.
You know, I mean, like they did a good job of doing that. And so you've got your operators. They do have the fail safes, and of course, just like any other tech, AI, computer based anything, somebody's going to develop something to have a virus, take it down, whatever. And so they've got this weapon that should not have been developed that doesn't only kill the surrogate, but it actually kills the user as well.
Right.
So it's kind of a neat concept and something that's absolutely relatable. The thing is, that scene that it's showing right there where Bruce Willis is jumping over the containers and everything, like, where's that throughout the rest of the movie? To where it's like these surrogates are robots to where they're almost like superhuman, and the only time he uses that is that one, like,
well, he doesn't use a surrogate after that. So his surrogate gets destroyed. So
Yeah.
he goes out in the real world as himself. And they just show the shot of him stabbing his supervisor in the back of the head to disable him. It's so easy to disable these things. You'd think that these human people that don't like surrogacy would be running around stabbing people in the back of the neck all the time and destroying these things. No, I agree. They didn't really exploit the superhuman side of it too much. There really wasn't, because they wanted to focus on him in that form there.
Yeah.
As having to experience the world in his fleshy form, his meat bag, as they said. And the reason he was so reliant on and his wife were so reliant on their surrogates was that their child died in a car crash. So they're suffering, this, I don't know what psychological condition it would be, but the wife just didn't leave the house. He didn't even talk to his wife in person. They only talked to each other through their surrogates. They basically lived in separate rooms in the apartment. So
when you notice how he recovered, you notice at the end, she's got that huge scar across her face.
She was in the car accident.
It's almost like she didn't want to go out. Not only that, they were mourning their child, but it's almost like, she didn't want to go out because of that. So why not use a surrogate that could be the perfect vision of myself? Now, so she also worked at a mod shop, a modification to where you could change whatever you wanted.
It's a beauty salon for surrogates. That's what it was.
Yeah, it really was. So like, that's why she, flawless and all that. I will say the one thing that was kind of odd to me was Bruce Willis's character. I know that they're trying to make him look flawless, but his surrogate almost had like the Snapchat filter on it. From 2009. So it was like the softness on his jaw and everything like that was almost overbearing to where it was like distracting. It almost seemed like he had a glow on his character, but it was just, it was too much for me. Which every surrogate had perfectly smooth skin. Even his boss, like very trimmed mustache and goatee, and like, I mean, just like everybody didn't have a single blemish on them. And his just seemed like it was too much.
They wanted a stark contrast so that when you saw him in his real form, there was this clear, you were never really going to see the other people, their real forms too much. So like the boss, you see his boss get up out of his chair and get on the phone for like, 10 seconds tops. So I think they wanted, basically, you weren't going to have much time with the surrogate because he's going to spend most of the movie in his meat bag. So they wanted to make it like really obvious that there were two different things there. What was I? Oh man, I lost my train of thought. And his partner. So his partner ends up getting killed by our antagonist. Someone sneaks into her house, kills her in her sleep, and then takes over her surrogate and impersonates his partner for a whole portion of the movie. I really thought that was unfair to that character.
I really, how they have twists and everything. Part of me was expecting the surrogate body to be in the bed, and she didn't really get killed, and now it's two meat bags, but it didn't play out that way. Yeah, it was just almost like a very important character walks in, shot, killed, and you don't like the human version is not there anymore.
I don't think you ever even saw her human version in the film. They never showed her meat bag.
There was one section where she gets up out of the chair, and she just kind of like gets up, and then it's like,
oh, okay, that's
15 minutes later, like the next day, she gets killed.
Gotcha. Okay, so yeah, I thought it was really unfair to her character that they killed her off that quickly, and with that, no, she didn't even get to fight. I would have liked to have seen her like maybe try to fight off the guy and then get killed because it was a surrogate that killed her, but whatever. I guess is what it is. The villain is found out to be actually the inventor of surrogates. He's a guy in a wheelchair. Mm-hmm. He's the Cromwell character, and the guy who invented iRobots too. And he invented the surrogates to help handicapped people, but then he doesn't like how far it's gotten, because once he left the company, they went global with it and everyone could have a surrogate. And now it's become this, we're no longer humans. And so he he infiltrated the resistance with a surrogate and as their leader, which is the Ving Rhames character, the Prophet. And he's been trying to take him down. So he's the one trying to kill all the surrogates, and he doesn't care how many humans how many meat bags he kills along the way. I would argue that the wife of Bruce Willis, who's suffering, from this trauma of her child dying, that is a sort of disability that she's trying to, like, she needs to live through this. Like, you can argue that it's not healthy, but it is, her way of being able to interact with the world confidently, in the same way someone in a wheelchair can now interact with the world confidently in a surrogate. Mm-hmm. I could see that. But it turns out he's the one who wants to end the surrogacy system, and Bruce Willis ends up with the opportunity to kill all the surrogates, but not the users, and basically just wipe out an entire industry.
Which you would think, if that was the case, why kill all the operators instead of doing it the way it played out anyways? You created this thing to help everyone, and now you're trying to kill potentially 1 billion people, like the computer dude said. The whatever the guy was. I think it's funny how he's like, oh yeah, we can do this behind the scenes, and we can shut them off without their control. It took 30 seconds for him to get a warrant, and then she's like, is that legal? He's like, it's kind of in the gray zone. So it's like NSA is watching everything you're doing anyway. So like, they know we're watching them. We know they know we're watching them. So, but yeah, it's just kind of, I don't know. There were a couple things in the movie that I wanted to mention. Mm-hmm. The robots are basically run on this antifreeze green looking liquid, right?
Sure.
So whenever his arm gets ripped off from the helicopter and he's running for the next 3 to 5 minutes with spewing fluid, why wouldn't it have shut down? The hydraulics, anything like that. Like I said, there's just certain things like that are kind of odd that didn't really line up.
They don't want to have to explain the actual inner working. This isn't about how the technology works. It's about the implications of the technology if it existed.
Yeah.
So just in that scene there where he's getting in the chair, my thing was they didn't really explain how is it you're able to feel things in that chair, right? Like what's the point of having sex or making out with someone in an alleyway if you're not feeling that on your face and you're not feeling it on your body? Like,
yeah.
I think the assumption is those red lights or lasers are making you feel sensations or something. So I'm with you. They didn't dive too deep because it's not about the technology. It's about the implications of the technology.
Yeah.
So, they want to skip over that. Remind me. So we find out that the weapon that's being used to kill surrogates and their users was developed by the military. But they found out that it killed the users, so they killed the program, and this prototype got loose. Remind me of the chain of custody. How did the prototype get to the first guy that killed the
Strickland.
people in the alleyway. Yeah.
So the only thing I can think of is probably Dr. Cantor had developed it with the military because it was made by VSI. And
But
the
he was
only
gone
thing
by
that
then.
Strickland, oh, well, the only thing that Strickland says is some guy gave it to me. I don't know who it was. I couldn't describe him to you if I tried. So it's almost left open to where you don't know who it
But
is.
why did
because
Strickland go to kill? Because the guy in the alleyway is Strickland's son.
Mm-hmm.
Not Strickland. Sorry, is Cantor's son.
Cantor's son.
Is Cromwell's son. Cromwell's son is using one of Cromwell's surrogates. It's the younger version of himself. So he's wearing his dad's younger skin and making out with a woman in an alleyway. Strickland takes this weapon and thinks he's killing Cromwell and accidentally kills Cromwell's son.
His son.
Right? Why would Cromwell give the weapon to the resistance that he's running for the resistance only to kill him? Like, that's
a good question.
I don't know how that. I feel like the weapon got into their hands not by Cromwell but by some other means, and then he decided after the pain of losing his kid to this accident, I'm just going to eliminate them all. You know,
yeah, but I mean, like
he went over the edge.
He was the prophet. He was
Right.
the surrogate that killed the partner. So like it's kind of a strange, like there is no other outcome unless he didn't want his son to be living through this machine anymore. And there was some kind of like, no, I'm sure, but he seemed really remorseful about it. But then again, it's like you said, unless he wanted the weapon to get into the hands of the guy that's going to kill him, it doesn't, it kind of leaves it open.
Yeah. I also think it's odd. So Cromwell is, throughout the entire movie, he is the prophet. He's running around as a younger version of himself. That's who kills Bruce Willis's partner. He takes Bruce Willis's partner's body. I'm sure he's
also
other
in
people.
the like 15, 16-year-old kid that's in the back of the car that tells him to get in.
Right.
And that's just kind of his, like, to throw anybody off. This is how I'm disguised.
He's in this room juggling surrogates all day. He's got to be the prophet who lives in a trailer on a compound. You think the people that work for the prophet who thinks he's human aren't gonna just knock on the door any old time and be like, "Hey, buddy, I need to chat with you for a minute." Like, he has to be ready to be the prophet at any given time. It seems.
Yeah.
And if he's got to run off and try to impersonate someone else with a different surrogate, because you can't be in multiple places at once, but you can kind of just switch transmissions and, you know, stream to YouTube or stream to Twitch, like we can. But yeah, it didn't seem plausible that he could be that old man in a wheelchair, had enough energy and to just be bouncing around and being all these different people all the time.
Yeah. Yeah, but I could definitely see, and like we've talked about so many times, and you bring up a good point with the whole, like, if you don't have the feeling, what's the point in the action?
Yeah.
Because it's almost like a VR video game at that point of walking around controlling something, but you're developing a friendship, going to parties, doing all this stuff. They're getting zapped up by the what do they call it? They're jacking. So they're doing bong rips with electricity.
Yeah, that was interesting. I forgot about that.
And then the kind of odd thing to where Bruce Willis is like falling back in love with his wife, but she's in the living room flirting with the other guy. Bruce Willis loses his mind and starts beating the crap out of the surrogate. Everyone's laughing because he's punching a robot, you know, so it's just kind of weird that she like apologized for having the company over, yet walks right back out and is hanging out with the crowd. So she's like just living her best life without any responsibilities. And, you know, it's Bridget made me do it. But yeah, it's just kind of strange. Yeah, I don't know. There's no fear, and that's kind of another thing, is there's no fear of death whenever it comes to these things, because apparently everybody's a surrogate, because whenever Bruce Willis is driving down the sidewalk collecting surrogates on the hood of his car, he's not concerned about any robots or any human life. So yeah, it's just kind of really strange like mindset that you've got at that point.
Yeah. Have you seen the TV show Upload?
I haven't.
On Amazon. Okay. So the TV show Upload is about, I think we've covered this kind of the idea of uploading your consciousness. So the idea is basically after you die, you can upload yourself to this virtual heaven. And it's
okay.
And you're living, and you have to pay. If you're rich, you can get a really nice place. If you're poor, you end up in like basically cold storage. It's like a jail cell. But this guy gets killed, and I got some images here I'll put up. His girlfriend, his girlfriend gave him, as he died, gave him her spot in this really nice resort, this virtual resort that she was going to go when she died. And at one point in the show, she pretends, spoiler alert, that she got killed and she's been uploaded. But in reality, she's just jacked in via VR. She's not really dead. And she does this by wearing what looks like a wetsuit. And you can kind of see in these photos, she's wearing this wetsuit that's plugged into something, and she's wearing VR goggles. And that, to me, seems like a more realistic way to experience this, because the wetsuit, there's a pneumatic hose plugged into it. Yeah, would have haptic feedback in it. And there's, I think in this particular scene that I'm pointing at here, she's actually making out or having sex with her dead boyfriend who's uploaded. And we can talk about the implications of uploading your consciousness and how real that might be. But they actually get later on in the show, they get into downloading, and they have clones of you can download to and come back to life, essentially, which is interesting.
So that's been the whole concept that we've talked about for the last however long, with teleporting, cloning. Your consciousness dies. And
what's interesting,
and it's reimaginative, but
in this version, just like unlike the 6-day and all that, when you download your brain from the cloud in your little retirement home to your new body, because that's going from digital to digital, that actually could be your that you could retain that consciousness and move there. The initial upload when you die and they upload from your brain, that's organic to digital. So your consciousness isn't going anywhere. That's a copy getting uploaded.
Yeah.
So, yeah. That's well. Oh, if you're not watching, do you have Paramount Plus? We're going off the rails here.
No.
You don't?
Nope.
Oh God, it's worth it just for the show called Lioness.
Okay.
It's military, paramilitary, CIA stuff. It's really, really good. But I just saw a picture for it, and I wanted to mention that before we stopped. So, yeah. So, Surrogates, how would you rate it? Of the movies that you and I have covered, what's been your favorite so far?
I don't know. I think Westworld is still a cool one. Never watched it. Saw
the original?
It, and huh?
The original?
Yeah.
The 1970s one? Okay. All right.
Just, I mean, like I said, this was a good movie. But yeah, I mean, it's almost like we've watched a lot of C-list movies with like Johnny Mnemonic and some of those. But then again, what was the Virtuosity was kind of cool. You know, young Denzel, young Russell Crowe movie. But yeah, I mean, it's been a good little journey.
Yeah, I think we're gonna have to come back and do like a ranking, because mine is the 13th Floor is still one of my favorites.
Yeah.
It was very, like, I think cleanly done. They didn't go over the top. They kept it very dark and noir. But I also thought the implication of like these
the inception almost of
yeah,
like
these layers of universes
inside
being
of a person.
built.
Yeah.
Where does it end? Kind of thing was an interesting implication. So
Yeah, no, I would
Yeah.
say this is definitely definitely a good movie. I did read something to where it's like it didn't quite hit blockbuster status because the return and everything like that on it. But I think it was a very well and very accurately portrayed video or movie from what 15 years ago as to what we're seeing the future kind of develop into now with the use of robots and stuff like that. So we've got robots that are driven by AI that are going to help you cook your food or whatever it may be. What point do we dock into these robots to do things like military actions to where you don't lose the person, you lose the hardware?
yeah, no, I agree. To your earlier point, it was budgeted at 80 million. It made 122.4 million, so a success. But
Yeah.
like you said, not blockbuster. I have a friend who's a physicist out here in the Bay Area, and for a short period of time, he worked for a company called Exponent, and they made these robots that were basically an iPad on wheels. It was a Roomba
Oh, okay.
at the bottom with a stick and a screen and a camera, and I could go into the app on my laptop, log into the one in his house, take control of it, and it would leave its dock, and I could remote control it around his house and go say hi to him. Like he was having dinner with his wife, and I came in the room. Hey, buddy, how you doing? And I
they
would
get dangerous real quick.
I was on my laptop in Florida, and he was out here in the Bay Area in California, and I logged in and I just went into his dining room and said hi.
Yeah. That's funny.
Obama actually used that technology. There's a great photo of him in the White House, and a larger version of one of these was being used, and you could, that is step one, a Roomba with an iPad on top. Step two is what we're, iRobot, where you could, go to a meeting and do a presentation, walk up to the, or you could be a professor, walk up to the chalkboard and draw. And then, then surrogates is the next step after that. I don't think, again, it just goes back to the economy. I don't think we get to a point where surrogates that 90% of the world is using surrogates. I don't see the economics in that. I think I don't think that enough people are going to be able to afford it. I think the what it does to the fact that you would still need to maintain roads, you would still need to, why would we have aircraft anymore? Here's my question. If you were to go get on a plane as a surrogate, and they didn't really show this in the movie, would you go sit in seats, or would they just would it be a cargo plane? Yeah. The plane would just be a cargo plane.
You take a nap while you're flying from New York to Japan, and then you eat lunch, you use the bathroom, you get everything, and then 13, 14 hours later, you dock back in after you're well rested, and then you go enjoy whatever it is.
Or better yet, there's a surrogate, like rental cars. You don't even fly your surrogate anywhere. You simply log into a surrogate back home in Wisconsin, and they slip on a skin. They 3D print a temporary skin that looks mostly like you, throw it on the surrogate, and you go visit your family at home for, a couple days, and then you return the surrogate and log out, and, you use the one at home again. There's no point to go anywhere. None of this is making any real logical sense. Obviously, the implication is, what if we didn't want to use our real bodies? We wanted to be the perfect version of ourselves all the time and not acknowledge our flaws. I get it.
Yeah, I mean, everything's going to a digital world, but then again, it's kind of the argument that people are having now, to where it's like, enjoy your surroundings. Everybody lives through your phone. So it is kind of like Dr. Cantor's thing with, now you see pictures of the ball dropping in Times Square, and all you see is a sea of phones. Instead of people watching the ball drop, everyone's sitting there recording it and watching. But it's just one of those things, you don't need 20,000 people recording that. one person upload a good video and everybody else enjoy the time that you're there.
Yeah, that's
And
what I
think
do. I
that's
make a
his whole
point of that.
mindset. Yeah.
When I go places, I'm never the guy with my phone. I'm like, no, I'm just going to enjoy this. And, you know, there are times where I'm like, I wish I recorded that one, because that one wasn't, I'll be like at a small, not a concert, like a big one, but like a smaller one. Like, oh, I like that band. What was the name of that band I saw at that bar that one time? Now I kind of wish I had. But yeah, no, you're absolutely right.
Good movie overall.
Yeah.
I enjoyed it.
Check it out. One of Bruce Willis's.
I did kind of like whenever she was peeling the face off, it did look like the whole Westworld guy getting his new face put back on, and whenever they would repair that. But yeah, like I said, the subtle tones of different movies that kind of led to where it was. So
all right. Well, that concludes the chat show for this evening. I'm gonna bid you and your glorious mustache. Is that within regs? Because in the Navy, it had to be the corner of your mouth. It had to stop here.
So they changed it to a 1/4 inch past.
Really?
Yeah, that's stupid, man.
Well,
but
I know
I will tell you now, the military is, I would say it's probably 50% beards now.
What? Where?
Everywhere.
How?
Shaving waivers, especially in the Air Force, dude. Shaving waivers in the Air Force are very common. Yeah.
Sorry, I just looked this up. You can see it, but they can't.
Yep.
Hold on, I'm going to go back to this real quick.
It used to be the corner, the vertical line from your mouth. Now they've added it to a 1/4 inch.
Okay. Now, this guy's going over the top with this Hitler-looking stash here.
Yeah.
But, yeah, this is correct. And the reason, at least in the Navy, there was a lot of logic to why we had to have that, is because, especially with the beards, is the firefighting equipment that everyone had to be trained on the boat. You needed a good seal. You didn't want anybody to not be able to do that. I don't know if the mustache falls into that category. This is current grooming standards. I don't know what year this is. Hair pieces, tattoos, jewelry, mutilation is a category. Shaving and mustaches. Let's go here. This is still the current grooming. What year is this?
Yeah, let's see. What's it say?
Sideburns will not extend below a point level with the middle of the ear. This is C and where's C? A mustache is worn. It shall not go below the horizontal line extending across the corner of the mouth.
Right there below.
And protrude
Extend more
below
than
the
a
lip
1/4 inch.
line.
Yeah, right
Yeah.
there where your cursor's at.
Where,
Extend more than a 1/4 inch beyond the vertical line drawn upward from the corners of the mouth.
1/4 inch. Okay. All right, so Navy gets it too. You got somebody,
that, but just a
at work
little
with a-
shout
with a
out.
ruler?
Oh, by the way, happy Veterans Day to you for yesterday. But it is one of those things to where November being Men's Health Month, they'll no shave November, so men's health. So that's kind of another thing that you always want to be concerned about. Get yourself checked.
no shave or like curated shave? Because if I don't shave, I look like a Sasquatch. Like this goes crazy.
Yeah, we normally push the regs a little bit more during this month, but I'll being in my position, I can't really do that. So I gotta make sure it's squared away.
Thank you for the veterans shout out. Every Veterans Day each year, I like to thank the taxpayers for the college money.
Yeah,
I appreciate that. You're still in. Do you? I'm in the minority here. Do you have a visceral reaction to the phrase "Thank you for your service"?
It's kind of weird. The Air Force is run more like a corporation than anything else, so it's really like an odd thank you for your service. And all right, thanks.
I'm not a big fan of the phrasing.
I'm not one of those that wear my uniform out every chance I get and every event and it's one of those, like, we'll go to my daughter's whatever play or musical or whatever they're doing, and it'll be like 7 o'clock at night, and you'll have people still showing up in uniform. And it's like, all right, man, you had enough time to go home. Like, come on, dog. But yeah, it's just kind of one of those things. Being in a military town, you see it all over the place. But yeah, it's kind of, I'm not the one. I'm like, I will go home and change before I go do anything.
I ended up, we're going back to 2000. Like, this is pre Don't Ask, Don't Tell being repealed.
Mm-hmm.
And I was dating a woman who lived in in Hillcrest in San Diego, which was basically like gay central. And I met her at a bar after work one day in my BDUs, and it was a gay bar. And I got approached by two guys in the Navy as I was sitting there with her, and I went up to the bar to get a drink, and they were like, "Hey man, you shouldn't be doing that. You know, it'd be kind of dangerous to be, you know, in this bar in uniform, man." And they were both clearly in the Navy, and they were telling me like, you know, you should watch. Like, maybe they thought that I was some guy who didn't know.
Someone was going to say something because you were at this location.
They didn't want me to get in trouble. They were trying to protect me. Like, hey, you shouldn't do this thing. It's like, oh no, I'm here with my girlfriend. But you shouldn't be running around outing yourselves to people in uniform either. Like, that's not kosher at this time. And yeah, that was. So I didn't wear my uniform out in public much after that. But
I got you.
Anyway, we got wonderfully off topic. Thanks for anybody who tuned in. I hope you enjoyed our ramblings on old Bruce Willis films and technology.
What are we going to watch next week?
Oof. I don't know. I don't have that locked and loaded. I almost want to have you start watching Upload, but it's less about the technology. We'll think of something and surprise everybody. How's that?
Cool.
All right, man. I will see you next week and see you guys next week.
It's a pleasure. Y'all have a wonderful night.
Peace.